So we have big Senate news. Let's get right to it. Thom Tillis, the two-term North Carolina Republican senator, announced on Sunday morning that he would not seek another term in 2026. Now, the big obvious takeaway here is this seat immediately becomes Democrats' best chance of winning a Republican-held seat in 2026. Roy Cooper, popular former Democratic two-term governor, was probably going to run no matter what, even if Tillis did run. But with Tillis out, I would assume Cooper will be in, and we don't know what the Republican field will look like. So this immediately jumps Maine and Ohio and Iowa and becomes Democrats' best pickup opportunity. So there's that. And that is important. Democrats think they have an outside chance of winning the Senate back. I think that's unlikely, but not impossible. It got slightly more likely now with Tillis out. That matters. But what I really want you to focus on, because I think this is really important, is the why behind what Tillis did. Okay, so on Saturday night, Tillis was one of two Republican senators, Rand Paul of Kentucky was the other one, who voted against a procedural motion to move the one big beautiful bill forward in the Senate. If you're not familiar with it, this is Donald Trump's sort of legislative package. It funds tax cuts, it funds national security, it funds his immigration priorities. This is his big legislative priority, okay? So it passed 51-49 with those two Republicans voting against it. Rand Paul voted against it largely because he doesn't like the spending in it, the spending increases in it. Tillis voted against it because it has cuts to Medicaid that he said would adversely impact his constituents in North Carolina. Makes some sense, right? Except we are in Donald Trump's Republican Party. And shortly after Tillis did cast that vote, Donald Trump went on Truth Social, the social media platform he owns, and said this: "Numerous people have come forward wanting to run in the primary against Senator Thom Tillis." He had Senator and Tom in quotes. I don't know why. Trump went on to say this: "I will be meeting with them over the coming weeks, looking for someone who will properly represent the great people of North Carolina and, so importantly, the United States of America. Thank you for your attention to this matter." Okay, so Trump puts that out at 7 p.m. on Saturday night. By 12-ish hours later, Tillis announces he is retiring in a long statement in which he doesn't name Trump, but it's clear he is sick of being a Republican in Donald Trump's Washington. Let me just read a few quotes from Tillis's retirement. He says, "What I'm most proud of are the bipartisan victories, passing the first in the nation eugenics compensation as Speaker and working across the aisle in the Senate to pass the largest investment in mental health in American history. Sometimes those bipartisan initiatives got me into trouble with my own party, but I wouldn't have changed a single one." This is probably the most important paragraph. Here it comes. "In Washington over the last few years, it's become increasingly evident that leaders who are willing to embrace bipartisanship, compromise, and demonstrate independent thinking are becoming an endangered species." He added, "It underscores the greatest form of hypocrisy in American politics. When people see independent thinking on the other side, they cheer. But when those very same people see independent thinking coming from their side, they scorn, ostracize, and even censure them." And Tillis finishes up with this: "I look forward to having the pure freedom to call the balls and strikes as I see fit and representing the great people of North Carolina to the best of my ability." Love that balls and strikes reference, Senator Tillis. Right in my wheelhouse. So I think it is true. I think it is true on both sides. Look, if you remember back on the Democratic side, the Democrats really pushed Joe Manchin, the West Virginia senator, out of the U.S. Senate because they didn't like that he voted so conservatively. Although to represent West Virginia as a Democrat, you have to vote conservatively. Democrats did not like Kyrsten Sinema, who eventually became an independent because of her voting record. They replaced her with someone a little bit more predictably Democratic, predictably liberal in Ruben Gallegos. So it happens on both sides. But what I would say is I do think that it is unique to have a president of the United States who simply wants agreement with everything he does, even if it is bad politics for a senator or a House member. Trump just wants you to say you support Trump. That's it. So even if Tillis had legitimate complaints and worries about Medicaid cuts impacting his constituents, that doesn't matter to Trump. Trump wants you to be for him. That's it. He don't really care about your constituents or your state. The way that you demonstrate doing a good job in elected office, according to Donald Trump, if you're a Republican, is supporting Donald Trump, which leaves you basically with two options in the modern day Republican Party. You can, one, get on board with Trump always and forever, or two, get out of politics. Now, there are a few exceptions. Susan Collins of Maine has bucked Trump on some things, and she remains in the Senate. Lisa Murkowski of Alaska has been even more outspoken in her concerns about Trump, and she remains in the Senate. But they are the exception, not the rule. I could list 20 other House and Senate members who have been driven out of Republican politics, despite being pretty conservative, because they simply didn't agree with Trump. Now, one quick aside on the one big beautiful bill. This is not a super conservative bill. This is going to add to the deficit by trillions of dollars, right? I mean, this is not like a fiscally conservative bill, and yet it's the bill Donald Trump wants, and therefore, if you don't vote for it, you're a bad Republican. What I want to end on is this. I think that Thom Tillis probably had the best chance of any Republican to hold the North Carolina Senate seat in 2026. He had already won two closely contested, tight races in swing states, in a swing state in not great years for his party. He won in 2020, even as Joe Biden was winning the presidency. So what you now have is a guy with a proven track record of winning voters over in a swing state, driven out of Republican politics because he did not adhere closely enough to the president's preferred policy priorities. Now, I don't know who Republicans are going to get as their nominee. They may find someone with an ability to win across the aisle, or they may think they don't need someone to win across the aisle. But what I will say is that with Thom Tillis out of this race, Republican chances of winning just went down. Now, we can argue, did they go down 5%? Did they go down 25%? I don't know, and it sort of remains to be seen until we know who Republicans ultimately choose as their candidate. But it went down. And Donald Trump, as party leader, his goal should be to hold on to as many Senate seats as possible. House seats, too, because that's how you retain power in Washington. But I think his real goal is to drive total and complete adherence within the party. I think he cares as much, if not more, about that than he does about actually putting candidates in races where they are more likely to win, even if that means occasionally bucking him on key votes. So let's see. But I think Republicans may look back and say that this was a cut off your nose to spite your face moment with Tillis if they do lose the North Carolina Senate seat come November 2026, that they could have tolerated a vote here or a vote there that wasn't great if he had held the seat, because he's going to vote with the Trump agenda overall much more often than a Democrat would. And yet, here we are. Thank you, as always, for checking out my videos. I am on vacation, so I have not made as many videos. You can tell by my background, this is not my normal background. I will be back in the middle of this coming week, so look for regular videos to pick back up after that. Favors you can do for me, you can subscribe to this channel. I should have asked earlier, but I'm asking now. Subscribe to this channel, check it out. I think you'll like it. An independent journalist calling balls and strikes no matter what uniform the batter at the plate is wearing. You can like and comment on this video in particular. That helps me with the overall YouTube algorithm, helps me grow, helps people who don't subscribe see this video. Last thing you can do is just tell a friend or two about what I'm doing and why you think it's important. I used to work at the Washington Post. I used to work at CNN. I'm now out on my own, making content without fear or favor, and I hope you'll check it out and subscribe. Thanks so much. Take care.